The taxes are coming. The taxes are coming. Oh, if only we had it as good as the colonists had it back whenever they were taxed, 3% or something like that, whatever it was. Anyway, taxes are heading your way as an eBay seller, and they're here. I'm going to break it all down for you and make it super easy so you'll know exactly what's expected of you from the IRS. Well, I can make that really easy in just one sentence. They want everything you own. It's your job not to give them everything you own, but you have to understand the rules first. I'm no tax advisor, but I can generally help you understand some of it, and then you can go to your accountant and get the exact details. Above all else, as Arthur Dent would say, grab your towel and don't panic. Towards the end of January, some eBay sellers will get a tax form, a 1099. You'll get it electronically. It's available in your eBay account. eBay should send you a message to let you know it's there. You can download yours by going to Seller Hub and then click on Payments across the top of the screen. And then on the left-hand side, you will see the word Taxes. Click on that link, and that will take you to your 1099s, your current 1099 for last year, and then previous 1099s if you got them before. All future 1099s should be on this screen as the years go by. Until eBay gets the 1099 done, it might say you have no 1099 for last year. That doesn't mean you won't get one. It means eBay doesn't have them ready yet. Towards the end of January, they will complete all 1099s for all sellers, and so by the end of January, you should have notice that you have a 1099 if you're getting a 1099. How do you know if you're going to get one or not? Well, if you sold more than $5,000 in 2024, you will receive, or you did receive, a 1099. That's the form that tells the IRS how much your sales were. A 1099 is easy to understand. It's eBay snitching on you, telling the government the sales you had the previous year. In 2026, it gets even smaller and it will stay at that level. Starting in 2026, if the entire year you sell $600 or more worth of stuff on eBay, then you get a 1099 from that point. Now, many sellers see getting this 1099 as a tax problem. Well, it is a tax problem, but it's a tax problem if you do not report your income. Now, here's a question like I see all the time in January of every year for the last several years, and that is something along this line. This was in a non-ultra advanced eBay group, which means all except ours on Facebook. And this question says, do I need to file taxes if my total sales are above $5,000 or net sales are above $5,000? That makes sense. That question's totally understandable. I understand why they're asking that. It's total versus net. You might have sold $5,100 worth of stuff last year in 2024, we will say, but after expenses, you only netted a take-home of $2,000. The majority of your sales was expenses for some reason. So your 1099 says $5,100, but after expenses, you only made $2,000. So do you have to report your taxes in that case if your net sales are way below the $5,000 threshold, even though your 1099 says you made $5,100? Keep in mind what a 1099 is. It's eBay being forced, or else they will be run out of business by the government. eBay is forced to snitch on you and tell the government how many dollars worth of sales you had the previous year. They are required to do this. Don't be angry at eBay. Put your anger where it belongs. Your government is stealing everything you have. eBay's no exceptions. There's a lot of money there. Your government's not going to ignore that. Your government didn't require 1099s for the first 24 years of eBay, or 25 or 26 years eBay was in business. Your government is sorry that they didn't get all of that money that they feel is theirs, and so they now require eBay to snitch on you. And in this case, snitches don't get stitches. It's not eBay's fault. They will be out of business in a heartbeat if they do not follow this law. The answer is simpler than this person is asking. It's far simpler. Net sales, gross sales, total sales. What's the real number that I have to report something? I will tell you the real number. If you sold 50 cents worth of stuff on eBay last year, you are required by law, by the Internal Revenue Service, you are required to report that 50 cents worth of sales. even if you did not get a 1099 that says you sold 50 cents worth of stuff in last year on eBay. After expenses, if you make 1 penny, after expenses, if your net sales are 1 penny, you are required by law, by the Internal Revenue Service, you are required to report that penny as revenue on your tax forms. So it doesn't matter net, gross, all of that stuff. We need to deal with that for another reason, but that has nothing to do with when do I report my sales. You report your sales according to the IRS. The moment you make a sale in that year, that means next taxes, that sale had better be on your tax form. Now, what if you just sold a few things out of your house? That $30 last year. You sold $30 worth of stuff and it was like old books and stuff. It's just a hobby. It's just sort of a garage sale to get rid of your clutter. You paid far more than that $30. You sold 3 items for $30. You probably paid $100 for those 3 items. But you're only getting $30 because you've used them or whatever, and you sell them, and someone sends you $30 for 3 items, and you paid $100 for them. You have a $70 loss right off the top, not counting all of the expenses of eBay fees and all of that. So you're at a loss. Do you report the $30 in sales? Well, you'd better. Will the IRS ever find out that you sold $30 worth of stuff and didn't report it? Oh, they may not. Is it worth it to you to do that? I don't know. It's not worth it to me. My business is far too important. My income is far too important. When the entire world wants to put money in my hands, I want to close my fists. That's what I want to do. That's what you should want to do. I don't want to be kicked off this platform because the IRS finds out that I didn't report my eBay sales, even if there wasn't a 1099. But wait, it's worse. I'm no tax advisor. I have no authority to give you any tax advice, but I assure you the IRS will never get on to me for telling you that you must report all sales on eBay to the government. That is the law. That's the rule. Break the law? Okay, that's your choice. But just know that's what you're doing. Now, this really means the following. You have to track expenses. Because if you sell $30 worth of items, you don't get $30. It's $30 less eBay fees, less if you're out any shipping, less you bought a box to put them in, you bought some tape, you bought a mailing label, you paid a promotion % fee, you might have refunded your buyer some shipping that they overpaid. You must track your expenses or else you have to pay taxes on the full sales. You don't want to do that. You don't want to pay taxes on anything. You have a duty to your family to guard your resources carefully, to be a good steward. It is your job to do everything possible to keep your family's future food out of the greedy hands of the government. It's your job to do all you can to pay as little as possible. Now, I do it legally because I like having an income. I like having a business from eBay. I don't want to risk it. It's all risk versus reward. Do whatever your conscience says you should do. But as for me and my house, we're going to report everything we're supposed to report to the government. But I am going to make sure that I do everything in my power to give them as little as possible legally, and you should too. It is your charge to do that. That means track every single penny of expenses because it adds up. That means tracking your mileage whenever you drive to the post office to drop off packages every day. Mileage when you go meet someone on a local pickup. That means writing off your mileage whenever you go garage selling to get inventory to source. That means writing off the cost of goods and figuring out that. And whenever you sell something, figuring out the actual profit. That means doing everything you can to track every single penny of income so that you don't have to report net sales that is large. All of your expenses come out of the total sales, depending on how you report them, what they are, you keep it legal, and so on. Now, that sounds like a hassle, doesn't it? It is, but if you have an accountant, she'll do everything. My accountant does everything. How many Excel worksheets do I keep tracking all my expenses? 0, except for consignment clients. I have to kind of keep track of what they're making. But if I didn't have consignment clients, if I weren't selling for half the neighborhood around me. I wouldn't have one worksheet related to eBay. Why would I? I wouldn't print off one sales report from eBay. I wouldn't print off a bank statement. I wouldn't look at a bank statement. I wouldn't do anything because I have an accountant. Is your business large enough to have an accountant? I don't know. But if your business wants to grow, you should get an accountant. My accountant is only $150 a month. I don't know if that's a lot to you or not. She's made me far more than she's cost me. And my time, I don't do anything. I don't do anything. At the end of the year, she just does my business taxes. She just does them. They just appear in my inbox. I don't do anything. She knows when I deposit. She knows when I withdraw. She knows whenever I do a business credit chart. She knows whenever eBay costs me money because of ship. She knows everything because I don't want to know it. I don't want to track that. I'm too busy listing, selling, shipping, sourcing. You should be too. You make more money on eBay if you list more items. The more items you list every day on the average, the more sales you will make every day on the average. Your job is to focus on that. Pay someone $150 to do all your accounting and take all of that cost burden off your lap. Now, maybe you're not a business. Maybe you don't consider yourself your government considers you a business if you're selling something. You better change your view because that is their view. And if you sell $30 this year and you like it and you go, wow, people just give us money. This is unbelievable. Let's try to make $300 next year. And you make $300 next year and you go, wow, let's make $30,000 the following year. And you make $30,000 the following year. It's amazing. In your underwear, you can do half this job. Probably you shouldn't take your packages to your post office in your underwear, but almost everything else you can do in your underwear. Wrapping, shipping, listing, pictures, all of that, if that's what you want to do. But if you get serious, you should have a business entity. I've talked about that a little bit before. You have to go to an accountant. Just have he or she create a business entity. Tell you which is the best one. I love Subchapter S Corporation. Now, if the idea of some little eBayer, you, selling just a few things that you pick up at garage sales around your neighborhood, and you hear Subchapter S Corporation, you go, oh, that's not me. I don't know why not, because that's an amazingly good business entity for eBay sellers. In my opinion, ask your accountant. But you can get an LLC, limited liability. You can do a partnership, I think, sole proprietorship, I think. Subchapter S Corporation. If you have a formal business entity that you sell under, and you will have your own federal employee ID number. You won't be using a Social Security if you sell under a business entity. What does a business entity do? It helps protect you. It helps you with far more deductions. It allows you to do so much more and make more profit and have so many more expenses than not having a business entity, and it makes life easier as a reseller. What if you're part-time? You should have a business entity. It's really worth it. Not if you're selling $30 a year, but if you're selling $3,000 a year, you should have a business entity. Why do you want to give the government more money? They aren't doing anything for you. It's your job to keep your money with your family. You're a steward of your resources. You are to protect your family. It is not your job to protect and fund the U.S. government. It's not. If you decide you don't want to form a business entity, it just seems like something weird. You're just selling things out of your house. You'll probably never sell more than $6,000 a year, and you're just doing this to pay extra utility bills and stuff. Well, you still have to report everything, and eBay's going to have to start sending 1099s after you've just sold $600 in one complete calendar year. So you're going to have to start reporting it sooner than later. But if you don't want to do a business entity early, before you really get started, okay, but you're still going to have to report your sales on a Schedule C. I'm no tax accountant, I'm no tax advisor, but I'm pretty sure it's a Schedule C self-employment form. You will have to add a form to your taxes that says Schedule C, I believe, and you're going to have to report how many sales you had on eBay, whether eBay sends you a 1099 or not, if you want to not break the law. And the problem with Schedule C, for those people who don't want to pay an accountant $200 to create a business entity and do all the filing and do all the paperwork and get you your own federal employee ID number so that on eBay you no longer use your Social Security number, but you use your business Social Security number, it's not a business Social Security number, but it's called a Federal Employment ID number, same number of digits as your social, and your business will now sell everything in the future. If you don't do that, you have to still fill out a Schedule C, and that's not very good because Schedule Cs require that you pay a self-employment tax of more than 15%, if I understand it correctly, more than 15% you have to pay on top of paying taxes on what you're selling, on your income. On top of that, paying taxes on your sales from your business. They want another more than 15% to go into your self-employment taxes. So if you don't want to have a business entity and pay an accountant to do that for you, then you're going to pay, I don't know, maybe as much or more in self-employment tax by doing a Schedule C. You have to do it, and you have to pay self-employment tax of more than 15% because it's a Schedule C. It's not a nice business entity that doesn't require that. Now, they require other fees, but not that big fee. But wait, it gets worse. Grab your towel and don't panic. Remember Arthur Dent. Your 1099, required by law that eBay does this, includes every penny you got from every buyer last year. This means total sales. This means shipping. Let's say you sell a mid-century modern desk lamp, a really cool desk lamp from the 1950s, and you sold it for $53, and it costs $11 to ship. So you get $53 for the lamp, you get $11 for shipping, you box it up, you wrap it, bubble wrap it, write your note that I've told you to write on every single invoice, and it costs $10.84 to ship. You're going to have to print a mailing label. So out of that $11 that your buyer paid, you pay $10.84 to mail it for the mailing label through eBay. So you made a big old profit on shipping of 16 cents. They paid $11. It cost you $10.84. That doesn't cover your tape, doesn't cover your label, doesn't cover all of that if you buy boxes even in bulk. All of that adds up, but that's okay. That's part of it. So when a buyer pays $11 in shipping and it costs you $10.84 to ship it, you lost a little bit on shipping, but that's okay. That's just part of it. If you want to charge an extra handling fee for your shipping, I do. I charge about 55 cents. There's a place inside your shipping policies. If you know what shipping policies are, if you don't, then just add it whenever you're doing your shipping area of selling something. But there's a place for a handling fee, a service charge, and I usually do 55 cents, which generally takes care of all of the extra that the total shipping charge didn't quite cover. But the IRS doesn't care about that. The IRS says, you, Judy, let's say that your name is Judy. Hi, Judy, I'm Greg. Let's say that you sold this desk lamp, $53. Your buyer paid you $11 shipping, so you got a total income of $64. The IRS says you made $64 until you prove that you didn't. The IRS says $53, and then the buyer just gave her another $11. The IRS doesn't say that's for shipping. The IRS sees they gave you another $11. You made $64 according to the IRS. And you go, I had expenses out of that. The IRS says, prove it. What expenses did you have? Show us your expenses. And that's why you have to keep track of every dime of expenses, or you let your accountant do it and you don't worry about it. The way I do, that's the way to do it. But okay, this means the number on your 1099, that number that says eBay sells, it's going to be meaningless. It's going to be meaningless. Let's say that it says $11,000 last year. Well, you didn't make $11,000. Shipping comes out of all that, remember? Your eBay seller fees, your eBay store comes out of that. Your promoted listing fees come out of that. What if you refunded a few buyers? That comes out of that. But eBay doesn't take all that out. eBay is not allowed to do adjustments. If you refund $6 on an item for whatever reason, the buyer paid $100 and you just gave her an extra $6 in refund because maybe you left a little part out that she can find easily somewhere else. I don't know. Sometimes we give partial refunds to buyers for several reasons. Sometimes we give full refunds to buyers who return things. None of that's on 1099. The government says, I don't know anything about your returns. I don't know anything about your refunds. What, partial refunds? We don't need no stinking partial refunds. You sold $11,000 last year. And you go, no, I didn't. I refunded $500 of that for various reasons. The IRS says, prove it, Judy. It's not our problem. It's your problem, Judy. That's a Judy problem, according to the IRS, to prove that you didn't make $11,000. Though that $11,000, whatever the total is on your 1099, is meaningless, not to the government, but as far as a number, it's meaningless. You have to respect it, You have to look at it. You have to report it. The IRS gets a copy of that. But then on your taxes, you have to put your expenses that you honestly made, including mileage you drove. Mileage counts. If it's business related, ask your accountant. You have to list all of your expenses to show the true income that you, Judy, made. And the IRS actually will accept that. Well, unless they audit you. But if you don't get audited, they accept it. They said, okay, Judy proved that we don't get all of this $11,000. Let's move on to the next sucker who may not keep track of her expenses. Only two things, I believe, are not included on your 1099. Canceled order. So if a buyer buys something, spends $100, and asks you to cancel the order, you cancel the order, the $100 gets refunded. eBay does not report that $100 in the next 1099. What about sales tax? Your buyer pays $100 worth of something. You live in some incredibly high sales tax state like California, and I don't know, 12% sales tax. I don't know what it is. I know it's probably higher than it was yesterday. So your buyers have to pay sales tax in the state of California, but eBay doesn't count that because eBay collects that. See, eBay only has to report to the government money that you receive at some point. It may go back out the door in a refund or something. That's not the IRS's problem, according to the IRS. That's not eBay's problem. eBay's job is to look at how much did Judy make in total income, not total sales, total income. Sales, shipping, and any refunds that she gave, they don't count. They don't come out of. So that number on that IRS 1099 that eBay sends you and sends the government, that number is total income you, Judy, made last year on eBay. Total income that you, Judy, got from eBay last year. However you got it, you got it. And it's up to you to prove to the Internal Revenue Service that not all of that actually was kept by you. And that's why you track expenses. And that's why if you get a 1099, don't panic. It's going to say $11,000. You probably only made after expenses, I don't know, depending on how good you are. Depending on how you source. Do you source the way I do? Well, then you paid virtually nothing for all it. You made a lot of profit. Do you source the way a lot of people do? You probably didn't make as much profit as people in this group learned to do. Okay, but don't panic. That $11,000 doesn't mean you're going to pay taxes on that. You prove your expenses by filling out Schedule C or a business entity's tax form, a Subchapter S tax form, whatever you need to do, or whatever your accountant needs to do, just let her do everything. Trust me on this. It'll rock your world. It'll change your world when you no longer care about anything as far as keeping track of anything when it comes to your expenses. Your accountant will do it all. However you do it, you got to make sure it's done. It is your job to either do it or make sure it's done through an accountant. And then the following year, when you get a 1099 and you've sold more because you've been in this group a year longer and you see $71,000 in sales last year on that 1099, you'll go, okay, wow, obviously my sales went up. But this is total income I received from eBay. This is meaningless as far as how much I actually made. So it's my job, it's my accountant's job, to prove to the IRS that I didn't really make this much. I had a lot of expenses. And that's what your tax forms are for, to preserve as much of your family's resources as possible. You need to track expenses if you want to keep the money that you made, that you earned for you and your family's needs. You need to do everything you can to track your expenses or to hire someone to do it. So what do you do when you get a 1099 from eBay? You don't panic. You grab your towel. I know a lot of you have no idea what I'm talking about. That's okay. And you order TurboTax, or you let your accountant handle everything and prove to the IRS that you had a lot of expenses and that you don't have to pay taxes on that full $71,000. And in general, they accept that because they don't really have a choice, because they can't audit all Americans. So in general, they take your word for it. Bottom line, when do you report your income from eBay? How much do you have to sell to report your income? Well, this year, the 1099, the limit will be $2,500. This year, 2025 just started. So whenever you see this, at the end of 2025, if you sold more than $2,500 gross income on eBay, you're going to get a 1099. So do you report your taxes then? You report your sales if you made $1. You have to do this. You have to understand this is what you're dealing with. If you decide not to do that, that's your choice, but at least you have been warned, and you really don't have an excuse now. If you're found out, you don't have an excuse. I've just told you. We got to play this game. We got to do it. So whether you get a 1099 or not doesn't matter, doesn't have any effect on whether you file taxes or not on eBay. You have to do it. If you choose not to, you still have to, and that's required. I hope this helps. Ask me anything. Ask me questions below. I read every question, answer every question. In the Facebook group, I'm assuming we still have the Facebook group in 3 years, if you see this 3 years from now. May not, but I assume we will. You can ask it in the Facebook group, but I spend a lot more time on YouTube working on these videos. So it's better to ask here. Just ask me anything, anytime. I'll be glad to answer. Make suggestions. If you don't like something I said, keep it to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Tell me what you want to see done on this channel. I will do my best to do it. I'm here to serve you. Please ask anything, anytime, and thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it.